By presenting the argument between mythicists and historicists, two different kinds of atheism. One believes Jesus isn't true at all, he's just a myth. The historical claims are forgeries. The historicists think there's some kernel of truth, but they still reject the paranormal claims, and they basically think he was just some charlatan with a messianic complex who was killed by the Romans. The problem with this is it's a huge distraction from the better argument against Christianity. That, whether or not Jesus actually existed as a person, is a very weak argument against Christianity, and it doesn't really accomplish much, although it is fun for atheists to dispute. The most important thing to do when arguing against Christianity is to first establish Jesus is Jewish. He's a rabbi, and he preached the Torah. Once we establish those three things, then we can move on to the next part. So Jesus is Jewish. He's referred to as a Jew. People call him a Jew. People even say his specific genealogy comes from, he's the son of David, the son of Abraham. His mother is referred to as a Jew. They say he's the son of Mary, a Jewess. A Samaritan in John says, "You, Jesus, are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman." And so we know not only is Jesus a Jew, he's of a special lineage. He's sort of royalty. Now, he's also a rabbi. He is referred to as a rabbi several times throughout the New Testament. In John, his followers say, "Rabbi, where are you staying?" to him. In Mark, the original oldest gospel ever written, Peter says to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here." John again, "Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher who has come from God, the God of Israel, Yahweh." Now people get confused because they go, "Oh, well, he says that thing about the synagogue of Satan, and that they say that they're Jews, but they're not real Jews." Yeah, that's infighting. He's describing a part of Judaism. And this is very typical Judaism behavior. There is always infighting. There's always different synagogues, different rabbis with different interpretations. This is not anything new at all. This is typical behavior. There's the new theory that, oh, this is like the Rothschild Bible. No, this is in all of the versions. All of these quotes that I'm using are the New International Version. He is a Jewish rabbi. Fact. Now, he believes in the Torah. He quotes the Torah about 12 times very clearly. He references it other times. He says in the beginning of Matthew, "Do not think I have come to abolish the law or the prophets, the Torah. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. Until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished." Now this confuses people because they know that the Jew who started the modern version of Christianity, the oldest writings we have, gave many exceptions to the Goyim. The Gentiles don't have to celebrate the Jewish festivals, don't have to follow the kosher laws, don't have to take Saturday as the Sabbath. They get all of these exceptions. And so they think, oh, well, we have a new covenant. We have a different rule set. No, so that was created just for the Goyim. They don't have to do any of that because Paul was creating a Noahide cult according to the instructions of the ancient teachings from Judaism. And I have a whole video going in exhausting detail of every single similarity between the rules for the Gentiles in the old sacred teachings and what we see in Paul's writings. He was following these instructions, which all lead to their end prophecy, which I'll get to later. He says, quotes Deuteronomy, Leviticus, Exodus, Genesis clearly. He tells his followers to obey the commandments, and he is very clearly preaching the Torah. The Torah is an uncensored version of the Old Testament, which comes from the Greek Septuagint. The things that are censored in the Old Testament that you would see in the uncensored Torah version for them, not for you, is, for instance, they censor the mentions of Asherah, the goddess who used to be in Judaism prior to her removal from the text. It says in the original version, get rid of all the Asherah idols and get rid of all of them. The people worshiping them are led astray. And so the Old Testament censors that and says something about lake, grove, some abstract thing about nature. But originally, in their version, that's for them, they're acknowledging that Judaism used to be polytheistic. There used to be many gods. Before Asherah, there was a whole Canaanite pantheon. Long story short, they don't want the later people understanding that monotheism is not the original state of Judaism. It used to be polytheistic. And so we could go through all these quotes, but I'm just going to list them here. So Jesus very clearly preaches the Jewish Torah. He's a Jewish rabbi preaching the Torah. And any sign of anti-Semitism that you might be able to quote is just infighting. That's him making a distinction between other interpretations of the Torah from other rabbis, things that are within the Jewish culture that he finds bad, and his interpretation. They get you, there's numerous times in the Bible that they imply that they're better than the Gentiles. But then it finishes with them killing your God. Isn't that interesting? How powerful is that mentally? What does that do spiritually to the Christian? You have a form of hatred, a resentment for them killing your God, but you have to subconsciously accept that these people were capable of doing that. And they were capable of doing that without doing it themselves. They got someone else to do it. It's an interesting psychological thing, but all we know is anti-Semitism already existed. And so you can see, if you're creating a religion for the Goyim, these people, that these barbaric European pagans come into your land, they're plunging swords into you, setting the whole place on fire. They hate you already. So there's no issue in creating a religion that might convert that sort of passion into a bitter resentment for them. But they pair that with the worship of them. You're accepting that they're the chosen people. And now that we've established that Jesus is Jewish, he's a rabbi, and he preached the Torah, now for the fun part. The Torah is fake. That we know. It's easier to demonstrate that the Torah is fake than it is that Jesus never existed. Although I think that I'm certain that Jesus is 99% or 100% myth. Even if we accept him as real, he's still a Jewish rabbi preaching the Torah, and the Torah is fake. Now, the Torah is a big book. I can't go into every single page, but let's do a quick speed run. It starts out with 4 or so myths clearly derived from older religions practiced in that region, except totally different. The Sumerian religion, one of the oldest empires we know about, their religion had a sacred garden with a male and a female inhabitant. The female has sacred plants that are forbidden sacred plants. The male character eats them against her wishes. He becomes sick. The healing character, the female, she's basically like a goddess. She abandons him because she's upset and leaves the god figure to be sick by himself. She returns and helps him by turning his rib into a woman, a lady of the rib, and then other sick organs into goddesses as well, and they all heal him. And so a goddess saves the day in this version. Of course, that descends into a male-focused, monotheistic thing where not only did a woman not save the day now a woman is the first problem of creation. Total switch. We look at the Cain and Abel story. That is seen in the Babylonian religion. There's a male and a female character. One represents agriculture, the other represents the shepherd. They're both competing for divine favor, just like Cain and Abel. Except, of course, the female character is made into a male character, and that's all male-focused. Make it just about men. If there's any woman, make them corrupt. That, and make it all more violent. Make excuses for taking children as your bride, stuff like that. It's a corruption of the original stuff. And so the Noah's Ark story clearly comes from the Epic of Gilgamesh, also has a serpent character that steals the plant of immortality, by the way. You can see where that serpent came from. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, a man is told that a flood is coming, build a boat for all the animals to go inside of it, just like the story of Noah clearly just derives from that. If we look at Exodus, the beginning of Moses does resemble older Babylonian religion. We do see a tale where a baby is in a basket, he goes down the river, he's intercepted by nobility, and this all can be traced back. But what's different, and there is a Ten Commandments similarity with the Code of Hammurabi, which is also on stone. And so that is very similar. But what's different is the part where Moses starts telling the followers to go harm people unjustified, take their children as your wives, and all of that sick, twisted stuff. That's new. The Judaism has a lot of novel things, and it's all this dark, violent, sexually depraved stuff added from these older, more egalitarian Mesopotamian religions. All of that, the stuff that we know is new, we can disprove with archaeology, genetic testing, and scholarship. Scholars like Thomas Thompson totally prove Moses is fake. There's no evidence for any of these stories in the Torah. It's totally fake. Archaeology, especially recent technology, has allowed us to show genetic correlations. We can see the Exodus never happened. They never came from Egypt. That's all totally rejected. We know that didn't happen. And that's actually the most important thing to go over, because that's what this is about. By getting you to worship Christianity, you're not only worshiping a Jewish rabbi on a stick that you think has magic powers, you're accepting the historical claims of the Torah. And by doing that, you go along with Zionism. And so whether you're a secular cultural Christian like Jordan Peterson with his Jungian hermeneutics, or whether you're Sam Harris and you're a secular Zionist, or you're Islamic, you're all accepting the historical claims of the Torah, which we know are fake. The creation story is easily dismissed. It's all just plagiarized and corrupted. But then what's new in the Torah is fake. It's fake history. We even know when and probably why they invented it. Every time they were expelled from a region or conquered by another region, they come up with new influences. When the Egyptians come on board, all of a sudden they adopt their circumcision. When the Persians conquer them, they adopt their idea of having a good and a bad God and being exclusive when breeding. We can see when all of these influences came about. And so Jesus is a Jewish rabbi who preached the Torah, and the Torah is fake. Now, if you want to take some redeemable part of the story of Jesus, if it comforts you, the issue with that is a lot of the positive parts of Jesus that make him seem distinct from this old covenant Judaism is they made this character preach pacifism because the original European Goyim were extremely violent towards them. So although it is good to be a moral person, to be a good person, what Jesus is advocating is complete and utter pacifism. Even when someone harms you, let them harm you again. This is not what they teach themselves. Their version teaches that they should strike early, before their enemy hits them. And they purposely taught you this neutered version that tells you to allow someone to hit you twice. And so I don't want you to go away with this. If you're going to reject the religious part of this and you want to keep the good part of Jesus, unfortunately, that's not good. The seemingly good part of Jesus is absurd in another way. We do not need to be complete pacifists. When someone strikes us, we should not give them the other cheek. The only way to completely reject this Zionist madness is to realize that these offshoots, these Abrahamic religions, are a product of Judaism. They were purposely created for this intention so that you would subscribe to their plan. Their plan is the world to come. The world to come prophecy says they will have complete control over everything. The righteous goyim who celebrate these Noahide religions they've created for you will be spared. And the heretics, the pagans, the idol worshippers, not allowed. And so if you're worshiping a Jewish rabbi on a stick who preached the Torah, you are being a righteous goyim and you are behaving. It doesn't matter how angry you are. It doesn't matter how racist you've become. We don't need racism. We don't need you to hate Jewish people at all. We need you to stop worshiping a Jew. You can have Jewish friends. You don't need to be angry at the common Jewish man. They're not guilty for any of this. It's you worshiping this book, this Torah, that is the cause of this blind Zionist behavior. You're going along with the plan because you've been indoctrinated with this plan. Wake the fuck up!